welcome back to Together with Kaylee. I'm in a new spot. It's not the first time that I make a video here, but I'm intentionally choosing to make this video right here because in this very corner right here, sitting like this, I was sitting like this. God gave me a testimony, a revelation, and a diagnosis. And it all happened in the middle of the night, last night. There was a point last night that I was like this, holding on to the window because God just had me that shook. So I'm here to share with you all how I found out that I was suffering from a financial heart attack. I know it sounds crazy. I bet you ain't never heard those three words together. I want to start off by sharing some of the signs that indicated to me that something was up financially, but I just did not give weight to these signs the way that I should have. Let's talk about the month of June. I was really, truly spoiling myself that month. There was one day where I took an Uber 3 times. All that I really left that day with was like an ounce of guilt, and I replaced that by telling myself, girl, you never do this. So I brushed it away, and that was not the end of it. I was eating a lot out at restaurants, something that I also don't do very often. I do eat a lot of takeout, but eating at restaurants is not something that I do consistently. And there was one week where I ate out at restaurants 3 times, and I just kept brushing it off. After all the Ubers, the takeout meals, and restaurant nights, I also started to notice that my spirit kept like remembering about different commitments that I made to give to people. And I love to give, I love to share, I just love to be attentive to the needs of other people. It's not just that my spirit would remember former commitments. My spirit would be like, oh, we gotta give to that person now, and we're gonna give to that person next, and we're gonna give to that cause next. And I would be like, yeah, but remember when you said I have to get like caught up with the other things? Like, slow down. It's a lot of giving. An emotional sign that was definitely consistent all throughout this was the fact that I felt like I knew better, but I wasn't doing better. And that was kind of frustrating me, but it didn't frustrate me enough to cause me to behave any differently. So I just was dealing with the emotion like, hey, do you know better than to be spending $70 on Dallas barbecue? One of the biggest signs was the fact that a lot of the promises that I felt like God made for me specifically for this time and season, they just all came to a stop. And I would be noticing like, this isn't flowing, and that's not flowing, and that's not going where I thought it would go. And I did not realize that part of that had to do with the financial decisions that I was making. So my signs looked like a whole lot of eating out, takeout, Ubers, reminders about my past commitments, inspiration for future giveaways, guilt, shame, knowing better but not doing better, and not experiencing the exact things that I knew God told me I would experience. So it was a lot, y'all, but I was still eating out and not paying attention. Now that we've talked about the signs that I perceived, let's talk about the self-awareness, because part of what blows my mind about this revelation is that I was actually pretty self-aware throughout the whole situation, and yet I still didn't experience the change, the growth that I was supposed to experience until God intervened and was like, baby girl, don't you see what you're doing? A major part of me being self-aware is reflecting and journaling. I implement in my weekly routine at least 4 journal entries. I was definitely able to sustain a level of self-awareness that allowed me to be aware of my emotions, my guilty and shameful emotions for all the eating out that I was doing. I was able to recount my own experience as I enjoyed the meal, but sort of second guessed my actions, considering how often I was doing them back to back to back. My level of self-awareness was actually pretty impressive throughout all of this. Even this week, I told my best friend, I have a lot of giving on the horizon, so I need to be intentional about how I spend my money. And even with that statement, knowing that I have a lot of giving on the horizon, I was not spending my money any differently than I was before. And so that was the part that was really unfortunate throughout this, that I had the signs, I had the self-awareness, but I wasn't doing anything constructive, productive, effective to change me and grow me. So I continued to spend money recklessly, and I would say that I had like a sprinkle, like, you know, Salve, like a sprinkle of intentionality. One thing that I definitely lacked self-awareness on was how much I was delaying God's work. The reason that my spirit was being reminded about former commitments and being inspired to pursue new commitments was because God had things for me to do. God was instructing me to get back to giving. And part of my purpose is to give, and throughout this period of eating out and treating myself, I really put a pause on the work that God has been calling me to do. And throughout my self-awareness journey through this, I just really did not notice that I was saying, hold up God, 1 second, I'm eating. Hold up God, 1 second, I'm ordering out food. So what did I do that helped me find out that I was suffering from a financial heart attack? The truth is, I did not do much. I only prayed. I did not take concrete actions at all to change my habits. Beyond praying, which is something that I have implemented in my daily life, which is something that I really thoroughly enjoy doing, I didn't do much else to get myself out of this situation. And that's really unfortunate and scary, because I definitely had all the signs and the self-awareness to encourage me to change, but I really did not experience the shift and the conviction that I needed to experience until God intervened, until my prayers were answered. If I didn't have praying as a practice in my life, I really would have experienced this revelation at a slower pace. I knew this truth through the signs and self-awareness, but it wasn't until God revealed it to me that I was like, oh, that's what's happening. Like, y'all, I literally had like a moment last night where I felt like, you know, Scooby-Doo, where they like unmasked the monster. Like, I felt like God unmasked me, and he was like, yes, you girl, you the problem. And I was like, now let's get to the diagnosis. God diagnosed me with a financial heart attack last night, less than 24 hours ago, y'all. And now I'm gonna be straight up, I can't explain what a literal heart attack is, but I'm gonna express to y'all how my experience is very much like a literal heart attack. The way literal heart attacks happen is that the arteries of the heart start getting clogged up, they get blocked up, and the fluids, the blood that's supposed to flow through it, does not flow through it. I got to the point of a financial heart attack by stopping and delaying the flow of my treasure, aka my money, my calling, and my purpose. So what happened was that after my cave time, I became comfortable with pushing off God's work and giving myself like hella extensions. Like, God will give me instructions and I'll be like, copy, I'm gonna put it down for like August, and God will be like, baby girl, eso era pa hoy. That was actually for 6 months ago. What do you mean, Paulita? What do you mean when you can? If God hadn't convicted me, he wouldn't have gotten access to my heart. I was already aware of my habits, but that didn't change anything for me. And so through this newfound access to my heart, I know that he actually has the ability to change my habits. And I know that now I am capable of changing and wanting to change. Now let's get to the lessons learned. The biggest one for me, I like to think of myself as pretty humble, but it's amazing to know that God can always humble me some more. And so before he does it next time, I am really gonna be intentional about humbling myself. These past few months, like, I was like, Jesus, I am literally tithing at 3 churches. Financially, I feel like I'm probably taking care of things right. I was not. I got too comfortable with doing the bare minimum and not fulfilling all my callings, not fulfilling my purpose to the extent that I could. I need to be prepared and willing at any moment, not preoccupied and slow whenever he gives me instructions. And so I really want to make sure that in the future I am more mindful about the instructions that God is giving me, and mindful about not delaying my action. If God gives me an instruction or an inspiration for a cause to give back to, I really hope that in the future I remember the conviction that I felt last night, and that it pushes me to act swiftly, because I don't want to be in another situation where I literally have a list of my past commitments to give that I still need to catch up on. The last thing I'm going to make sure to keep in mind is watching the flow of my heart. And now I know that I can do this by watching the flow of my money. So if I go through all my bank transactions and I'm seeing a whole lot of Uber Eats, DoorDash, then my heart probably isn't flowing where it's supposed to flow. And I want you all to understand that, at least for me, like I said in the beginning, this impacted a whole lot more than just like my financial stability. A lot of the promises that God made to me were literally not coming into fruition because of my own interference. And so watching the flow of my heart really means watching the flow of my life. If I see that things are suddenly coming to a halt, and things that I was confident in, things that I actually had no worry about, then there's something that I must have been doing that intervened. The reason why I felt encouraged to share about my financial heart attack with you all is not because I want you all to start tithing or giving back to your community. I do both of those things, and I still got caught up and I was still messy, and I still didn't do things right. So I really do believe that God is encouraging all of us to check ourselves, to check the condition of our heart, and acknowledge what we say we're prioritizing and what our spirit and heart is actually prioritizing through the flow of our treasure and our money. This is really about the health of your entire life and existence. Our money, our financial stability doesn't indicate our purpose, but it does show for what we care about. It does indicate what we want to see prosper. And so when you can invest in stocks and in companies that you have no clue what their true intentions are, but you can't support a small business or a friend or a cause for an immigrant or for a prisoner, like, it really does say something about your priorities, and not your financial priorities, but your heart's priorities, your spirit's priorities. Last night, in the middle of my diagnosis, God gave me another instruction to give, and I'm excited for this one because I want to give you all the opportunity to give as well. And so for 5 lucky winners, I will be giving $20. And the condition is that they get to keep $10, but they have to give the other $10 away. And I look forward to hearing about how you all choose to give that money away. I just really want to work out our muscle of generosity. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you're not suffering from a financial heart attack. Check your heart. Where is the flow of your treasure going? Make sure you subscribe, leave a like and a comment below. Until next time.